Hello, everyone. Welcome to 5 of the most effective ways to retain customers and boost service revenue, presented by Podium, brought to you by MotorAge and ABRN. I'm Shannon Brandyberry, Special Projects Editor with MotorAge and ABRN, and I want to thank you for joining us. I am joined today by our presenters, John Eyre, Director of Content with Podium, and Matt Boyce, Marketing Director for Podium. This pair has a wealth of knowledge about digital marketing and how best your shop can reach your customer base. Perhaps you already have experienced some things Matt and John are going to speak to today when it comes to trying to effectively reach your customers in the ways that they want to be reached. They have the information and insight into how you need to use different communication tools, including text and other messaging apps, to be effective in your business. We hope you're ready to discover some tips and tricks for implementing an effective messaging strategy. And with that, I will turn the presentation over to John and Matt.
Thank you, Shannon. This is Matt. John and I spend a lot of our time focusing on the automotive industry, and we look at successful businesses, a couple unsuccessful businesses, and so we've got a handful of tips and tricks that we've seen work really well across various size dealerships and businesses, and we hope this will be really beneficial for you. We always like to give actionable tips, so by the end you should have a decent list of ideas and things you can implement right away. We'd like to go over a few things. First, we want to gain an understanding of today's communication landscape. You may have noticed it where the way that people communicate has changed really rapidly recently, and it will continue to change. So how do you stay in front of that? The second item is we have a few best practices for implementing an effective texting strategy. And you may be doing this, you may not be doing it, but we have a couple ideas. And then third, Google unveiled a new feature called Click to Message, and we'll walk through how to set that up and how to use that to benefit your business. So with that, at a high level, let's think about how customers find your business. Let's first think about how they used to find your business. So it wasn't that long ago where a business or a customer would see a traditional ad. They might look for your ad on a Yellow Pages or some sort of a business directory. They may call and ask a couple questions, or they may just pop in and visit you yourself. But today that is changing. So a lot of online consumers are doing more online research where they're comparing a business against another business. They might read reviews of actual customers of that business and see what their strengths and weaknesses were, and then in place of simply calling, they might try to message that business and ask a couple questions in a less formal way. And those combined may result in that in-person visit. And so the consumer hasn't changed their intention or their need to buy, but the way that they research is changing. And so that essentially comes down to the way they're trying to interact. Today, 90% of consumers want to use messaging to talk to businesses, and 50% prefer to use SMS texting when messaging a business. However, there are much fewer than that when it comes to businesses who are prepared to receive those incoming text messages. So really, it's only about 48% of businesses are prepared and capable of messaging with their customers. So there's a couple of different use cases when a customer would want to message. And so first, it may be to answer a simple question. It could be when will my car be ready? When will my service be completed? They may want to set an appointment to see if you've got an open bay or how quickly they could get in and out. Additionally, they may need to resolve a problem. They may still have an issue with their car and want to have one of your mechanics take a second look at it or something like that. And then it's an excellent way to provide feedback. The common thing with all of these is this is a non-confrontational way where people are less intimidated to engage with someone new. Or they may prefer to retain a relationship if you're their business that they used the last time they needed a service, for example. So here are a couple misconceptions about messaging. A lot of people think that it's really time-consuming or resource-intensive or even cost-prohibitive. I had a recent example where I wanted to get an oil change. There's a lube shop close to my house that I wanted to use, but I frequently see a line. And so as I drive by, there might be 7 or 8 in line just to get an oil change. And I don't want to wait in line. I want to wait till it's a better opportunity. And so I recently picked up the phone. I called them. It rang maybe 4 or 5 times. Finally, a technician picked up the phone. It sounded like he had just run across the shop. He was breathing hard. I simply asked the question, do you have any open bays right now? He said, there's no wait, come on in. He hung back up. He probably ran back out to the job that I'd interrupted and continued on. And I didn't need to know right that instant if they had an open bay. I just needed to know roughly if they were available. And so in that case, that seemed really resource intensive, where you took one of their productive people, made him step away from a revenue generating activity and answer the phone. And so additionally, it's really not as expensive as you may think. You can manage multiple conversations at one time through a text message, whereas on the phone, really you've got a lot more time to each phone call. So why should businesses implement a mobile messaging strategy? First of all, it's just more effective. You've got higher open and response rates than traditional channels. So if you're not familiar with email marketing, for example, just as a benchmark, a really good open rate for an email campaign is 20%. In comparison, text messages have a 99% open rate. And 90% of those messages are opened within 3 minutes of receipt. And so, if you want to deliver a message, text messaging delivers it to many more people than an email would. Podium customers using Messenger, our Messenger product or our messaging product, experience a 45% response rate. Whereas again, to benchmark that against emails, you are really good if you have a 2% response or conversion rate to a mass email campaign. And so we see that texting your customers just works. Next, if customers want to be messaging and you offer the ability to message, you're simply going to improve customer satisfaction. But additionally, if your shop isn't tracking NPS, that's Net Promoter Score, and Podium has a way to track your NPS scores. So Podium customers using Messenger see a 25% increase in their Net Promoter Score, or how likely your customers are to promote your shop or recommend your shop to a friend. It's also a fantastic way to obtain valuable insights and feedback. And so you can find out what your customers like and dislike in real time, where if you're waiting for a public review or a survey or something like that, it may take a long time before those insights are gathered and returned back to you. But in a text message, you can pretty quickly, they will tell you if they're dissatisfied right there. Another thing that allows you to do is mine that interaction data to give you a better understanding of customer experience. And this is one of the things that we can do, where it can scan multiple conversations and see people's sentiment and is generally happy, or even if they're happy about a certain aspect of your business or dissatisfied. So as you think about your typical customer, ideally, it's not just a one-time visit and then you never speak to that customer again, because then you're constantly finding new customers. And so think about that customer journey and think about the cycles that they might go through. And so initially, you could use a text solution to set appointments. And then as they're getting closer to their appointment, they may have a couple questions about timing or a couple questions about cost. You can send a reminder to make sure they show up for their appointment the following day or that week. And then you can resolve any concerns or something like that. You have a visit, and then that same cycle can repeat again, where you can set another appointment, answer questions, send out reminders, and solve those continuing problems. So with that, I want to pass the mic over to John to go over a couple best practices.
Well, hopefully by now you have an understanding of why text messaging is important and how it can be valuable for your business, and that you're ready to implement a text messaging strategy today. So over the course of the rest of the presentation, we'll walk you through some tips to help you get started, as well as some best practices to keep in mind when you're texting with your customers. So first things first, and this is like just the very basic baseline thing that you need to do if you haven't done it already, is claim your Google My Business listing. Other listings like Facebook or Bing or Cars.com or DealerRater, these are important, but Google is still the king, and that's because Google receives 64% of total search volume on desktops, but it is virtually untouched in mobile search queries. According to data that we've seen from StatCounter, Google controls roughly 95% of mobile search queries. Now, mobile queries are important because they typically happen when your customers are experiencing what Google calls micro moments, which are the times when online searchers have a question. They're times when they want to know, want to go, or want to buy something. And when they're experiencing these micro moments, they want their answers to their questions quickly. They're often very motivated to make a purchase. So, like if I was, in the need for an oil change, or if I had, blown out a tire, the first thing I'm going to do is grab my phone and just search for an auto shop near me. And the ones that show up first and that are highest rated are probably going to be the ones that I'm going to go with. In addition to how close the best one is to me. So just some stats about these mobile search queries. 50% of mobile searches result in an in-store visit within 24 hours, compared to just 34% for searches conducted on a desktop. And of those 50% that go and make an in-store visit, 18% make a purchase within one day. So like I said, these people, online searchers, when they're searching with a mobile device, they really want to make a purchase. So make sure that you're there and showing up when these searches occur. So because these mobile searches are important, especially because these results on Google are important, I'll walk you through the process of claiming your Google My Business listing. The first thing you're going to do is just navigate to business.google.com, and you'll need to log in with your Google account, which is your Gmail account or Google+. So most people have those already. And the next thing you'll need to do is search for your business using the name and address. Then you'll just need to confirm that the address is correct, and you'll want to make sure that the name and address are consistent with the addresses you use on your website and on other business listings. This consistency is important because that's part of one of the many factors that make up Google's local search algorithm. So if you have inconsistencies in your address or in your name, it could have a negative impact on your online search ranking. So when we're talking about consistency, if you have a South, for example, in your address, you'll either want to always spell it out or always abbreviate it. You won't want to mix it up, just to make sure that your listing is optimized for local search. So once you have filled out all the relevant information about your business, you'll submit that to Google for approval. Typically, Google will send you a postcard within a couple of days with a PIN to finalize that verification process. And Google does this just to ensure that only the right people have permission to manage that listing. And once you have that access, you want to just make the listing as good as possible. You want to upload high-quality photos. You want to make sure that you're interacting with your customers when they try to reach out to you. And speaking of that, we're going to talk about a new feature that Google recently added, which is click to message. This will help you. If you set this up, it'll allow your business listing to accept text messages. It'll be there right along with, directions and phone and website. Those things that are already in the mobile listing. So as Matt talked about, many consumers today would prefer to interact with businesses via text message, especially to answer simple questions like making an appointment or seeing if you have any openings this afternoon, things like that, things that are easily answered with a text. And Google has made it super easy for you to do this. To get started, again, you'll need to log into that Google My Business page and select messaging from the upper left menu. And then you'll just add your telephone number you want to receive text on, and Google will send you a text with the PIN to verify that that's the right number that should be accepting the text. So now that we've got you set up with your Google My Business page and you're all set up to collect text messages, let's talk about some best practices for interacting with your customers via text message. The first thing is to be responsive. It's probably the most important thing. As I mentioned previously, when online searchers are experiencing these micro moments, they want their questions answered quickly. And after you've been texting for a while, Google will pull in what your typical response time is. And if it looks like the customer isn't going to get an answer in the right time frame they'd like, they will often move on to the competition. So to better illustrate this point, I'd like to share a quick example from my life. I recently had an incident that came up that required me to file an insurance claim. And my insurance agent, his name is Tim, he's a good guy, and he'll usually be pretty quick to answer my questions. The problem is that if I call the number that's listed, it's not his direct cell phone or anything. It'll go to the national office, and they'll either forward me to Tim or I can leave a message. And that's not an ideal situation for me because anyone who's filed an insurance claim knows there's lots of steps in the process. There's lots of conversations that need to happen, or even just small things. And when those small things come up, the good thing is I'm able to text Tim directly, and he can either call me back or text me with the information that I need. And this experience works better for me because during business hours, I'm not always available to wait on the phone, for Tim to call me back. And so just to make sure that we're able to connect faster, text message, works best for me. Now, this is just one example, but there are many areas where being responsive to customers' text can be helpful. For example, auto service shops, they can use text messaging to help, schedule appointments or, to help if customers have questions about the services you offer. There's a lot of different applications, and being responsive to your customers will help drive them, from that awareness phase. They've already found you, they've texted you through your Google click to message. Now you want to make sure that you're responding to them so that they ultimately end up making it to your shop. So next, don't ask for sensitive information next. Now this might seem like a no-brainer, especially in light of what's happened to Equifax, but you don't want to ask for that for things like credit card numbers, social security numbers, bank account information over text. Just because text messaging isn't as secure as other forms of communication. So you want to make sure that you're keeping your customers' information safe so that, in the event that you are hacked, that information is safe. So next, ask your customers for feedback through text. A lot of times consumers aren't going to want to, sit and fill out a long survey, but they might be willing to answer a few questions via text. And that's because it's going to be coming across as more personal and less intrusive than a survey. A small subset of our customers are currently using Podium to text their customers with the Net Promoter question, which is the question that basically asks, on a scale of 1 to 10, how likely would you be to recommend this business to a family or friend? And then after they get that answer, they'll follow up with a question or two, to figure out why they left that rating. This has been much more effective than typical Net Promoter surveys. Our customers that are using or asking that question this way have seen impressive results. They have a 30% response rate compared to, I think oftentimes surveys have close like a 2% response rate, and then they're also seeing an increase in their Net Promoter Score by 25%. So there's lots of benefits to surveying or collecting feedback through text message as opposed to sending out a formal survey via email. So next, related to asking for feedback, is invite customers to review your business via text. Now, it wouldn't be a Podium webinar if we just didn't talk at least a little bit about online reviews. So online reviews are important because they help you get found. They're an integral part of that Google's local search algorithm like we talked about. Next, they'll help your business get chosen because they have a significant impact on purchase decisions. In fact, 84% of consumers trust online reviews as much as personal recommendations from family and friends, and 82% have said the content of a review has convinced them to make a purchase. So online reviews are very important. And finally, they help you gain valuable insights into your customer experience and help you identify what's working and what might need improvement. And you're able to get that information in real time, so you're able to solve potential problems before they become too big. So now that I've given you my spiel about why online reviews are important, let's talk a little bit about why you should use text messages to invite your customers to review your business. First and most important, and I don't want to sound like I'm beating a dead horse here, but text message just has higher response rates. Matt cited the stats. They have a 99% open rate, and 90% of those are open within 3 minutes. And those, like you said, are significantly higher than email open rates. So if you want your customers to not only see your invitation but open it, it's much better to send them via text. Also, if you're focused on collecting reviews on the top sites like Google and Facebook, you can eliminate a lot of the barriers that existed previously that inhibited people from following up on review invitations. And that's because you're able to oftentimes connect them directly to Google and Facebook, because a vast majority of people are already either logged into Google, they have an Android phone, or they have Gmail, or they have Facebook on their phone. So when they click on that link, they're already logged into Facebook, so it can take them, directly to where they need to go to leave a review. So the key to getting people to leave you more reviews is just by making it as easy as possible for them to do so, and we believe that the right channel to do that is through text message. So next, we want to talk about the idea of transforming from just being a business to being their business. And to do this, I want you to I'm going to conduct a little experiment here. I want you to grab your phone and open up the Contacts app, and just scroll through there and think about the last time you purged your contacts and got rid of people who you don't interact with very often. If you're anything like me, you have people in there that you haven't talked to in years, but you don't really want to delete them because you never know when you might need to get a hold of them. So just to flash back to that example with my insurance agent, Tim, he's in my contacts, and I probably only interact with him once a year just to check my rates and just to make sure that we have the proper coverage, things like that. But it was nice when I did have this insurance claim that I needed to file, that he was there, right in my contacts. I was able to get a hold of him immediately, get the process rolling. So that's what we mean when we say don't just be a business, become their business. I didn't have to Google, my insurance company. I didn't have to, the process was much simpler. I just went directly to my guy. Tim's my guy. I wasn't looking for anyone else, and the process was simple. The same thing can be said for, auto shops. Like if you are able to get your customers to add your number, your textable number, to their contacts, then when they have an issue that arises, they're skipping that discovery process and going directly to the business, instead of like Googling auto shops near me and then reading reviews. They already have their auto shop, and they're not having to go through that process. And you're able to create loyalty this way. So one way that we suggest doing this is just by creating a V card for your business and texting that to your customers and asking them to add that to their contacts so that you're more sticky there. When they need a service like the one you offered, they can just quickly go to their phone and get a hold of you. So finally, before we close up, just want to give a quick pitch for Podium and our Messenger solution. If you do want to implement a text messaging strategy for your business, we really encourage you to implement a solution like Podium Messenger. Doing so will make interacting with your customers via text much easier. It'll allow you to reduce support costs and inbound phone calls by as much as 15% or more. And additionally, it will help you nurture customer relationships post-transaction to improve customer satisfaction and help you create those loyal customers that keep coming back for more. And because you're able to consolidate all of your interactions into our easy-to-use dashboard, they aren't tied to one cell phone. So if you have employees leave, those interactions and that number isn't lost with them. This makes it easier for multiple people to respond and interact with your customers, and also giving you the ability to obtain insights from all of your customer interactions. So that's all the information we have to present to you guys today. I'll just turn the time back to Shannon. Oh, just quickly, if you do decide to go with Podium, we have this promo code there that you can mention to one of our sales staff, and they'll help you to get a discount on the solution. So it's Podium17. Just mention that promo code, and you talk with one of our sales staff.
All right. Well, thank you, John and Matt. Hopefully everyone is walking away today with a better understanding of how they can best reach their customer base, the best ways to do so effectively. For our viewers, if you have comments or questions, please feel free to reach out to the experts at Podium, and they will help you with additional information or explanation. We hope that your messaging continues to reach your customer base and move to more targets as you use some of these new suggestions. So with that, we'll wrap up for today, and we all thank you for joining us.